Hello everyone and welcome back to Age Nagash, which channel dedicated to Age Sigmar, and in this video we're going to be returning back to the Flesh Eater Court, looking at the Abhorrant Ghoul King on a Royal Zombie Dragon. Okay, so firstly what I like to do with the video is I like to start with the lore, and then I go into the rules for the War Scroll that we'll be reviewing. As if you guys have seen my previous videos, you know that's how I like to do things. Similar to how I did the Abhorrant Ghoul King on a Royal Terrorgeist video, the last one I did, if you guys have seen that, where I talked about its lore briefly, and that was mainly just because the Abhorrant Ghoul King, either it's on foot, Terrorgeist on a Royal Zombie Dragon, I basically reviewed all that in the Abhorrant Ghoul King on foot video for the lore for that, so I'm only going to do a brief bit of lore for the Ghoul King on the Zombie Dragon. Right, okay, so with that little bit of lore, all it has to say is surrounded by an aura of potent dark magic, the Abhorrant Ghoul King and his Zombie Dragon are death incarnate. As monsters shred foes with fangs the size of swords, the king pulls warriors apart with his bare hands. Okay, so basically just describes what that thing does in the battlefield, just turns into a bit of a word I like to use, a blender. And interesting to say that it kills them with its claws, which it does, but it's snapping more is the more exciting attack. So anyway, so going into now its sort of gameplay wise, we're going to look at its points firstly, just so you know if you're building a list of how many points this thing's going to cost you. And it's going to cost you 440 points. That's a minimum size unit of 1, maximum size unit of 1, obviously, because it's a leader and a behemoth. So yeah, 440 points. So it's the most expensive model the Flesh Eater's Courts have in their possession right now. It's 40 points more expensive than the Abhorrant Ghoul King on the Terrorgeist. So, you know, what are you getting for the extra 40 points? Because I've reviewed the Abhorrent Ghoul King on the Terrorgeist. I know, just to say also that I know it's now a Royal Zombie Dragon and a Royal Terrorgeist, but I'll probably forget to put the Royal in front of it. Just in case you wonder if you think I'm talking about a normal Terrorgeist from Legions of Nagash, no, I do mean the Flesh Eater Courts one, and that for the Zombie Dragon. I'll just probably forget to say Royal because I'm so used to, through my years of playing the Flesh Eater Courts, by thinking they're only Royal in my head without it actually being on their War Scroll. Right, okay, so enough of the pre-rambling. Let's get into its War Scroll. So like I say, it's costing you 440 points as a leader and a behemoth. So let's look at the description. So it says, an Abhorrant Ghoul King on a Royal Zombie Dragon is a single model armed with Gory, Talons and Fangs. Then it says the mount. This model's a Royal Zombie Dragon attacks with its Pestilence Breath, a snapping maw and sword-like claws. And then it says it can fly as well, so this model can fly. Like I say before, it's got wings, so you presume so, but it's nice to always have that written down. Right, and then moving on to its stats. So firstly, we're going to look at the stat wheel. So it's got a movement of dash, and it starts at 14 inches, but as it is a monster, it does have a damage table, so its movement will decrease with the more wounds it takes. But like I say, it starts at 14-inch movement. It's got a 4+ save, it's got a bravery 10, and 14 wounds. So this is the same stat wheel as we saw for the Abhorrant Ghoul King on a Royal Terrorgeist. See, I remember the roll bit there. And yes, it is the same stat wheel. And it is a good one. You know, you've got a 14-inch movement, which we say is quite standard with dragons. You know, we do expect it, but there are a few exceptions out there, I think, that don't move 14 inches. Or I think, like, you know, like the Wyvern or something moves 12 inches. So it's just things to, like, bear in mind. So it's good that we've got the 14-inch movement. And like I say, it will, you know, its movement will decrease with the more damage it takes. However, as this model can heal, it's not going to always get to the end of the game being really, really slow. It could heal up the wound, so it's always fast until the end. The 4+ save, yep, that's good. You're going to need at least a 4+ save for something like this, just because it's such a big model. The enemy are going to target most of their shooting at it if they're not going to be shooting your courtiers. So yeah, we need a 4+ save. You could ask for a better one, but you're not going to. The guy hasn't got any armour, you know, as much as you would like to think he's got armour because of his delusion. He hasn't got any, so a 4+ save is good. Bravery 10, yep, we come to expect that. And 14 wounds, yep, that is good. Most monsters, like I say, are 12 wounds, so 14 wounds is good. Now, right, so we're going to look at its stats for its weapons. So it's got 1 missile weapon and 3 melee weapons. So the first one we're going to look at is the missile weapon, and this is Pestilent Breath. So it's got a range of 9 inches. It's 1 attack, 3's to hit, 2's to wound, -3 rend, and d6 damage. Okay, so firstly with the wounding, it is a 2 to wound. However, this is a like dash symbol, so it means refer to the damage table. So it starts with, you know, a 2+ to wound, but when this thing's on its last legs, it is a 6+ to wound. So just something to bear in mind there. Right, so a 9-inch range isn't good. I'll be honest, it's not a good range. However, bearing in mind that Death does not have much shooting, and when it does, we don't have any artilleries, do we? The day when we have artillery, apart from Screaming Skull catapults and whatever else Tomb King has, is sadly not really relevant anymore. I do love the Tomb Kings, but you have to take them General Grand Alliance Death, and yeah, unless you've got a Tomb King's army, you won't go out and buy one to do it. And that's not me dissing on Tomb Kings. I think they're awesome, great aesthetic, but it's just something that we're not really seeing anymore. So anyway, going back to what I was saying, so 9-inch range, bearing in mind it's Death, it's not a bad range, because range in Death is not good at all for shooting, apart from magic. So 9-inch range, yeah, that's alright. If there's any abilities for you to teleport this guy, and set him up 9 inches away from the enemy, you're not going to be able to do this missile weapon against them, because they have to be within 9 inches. And if you set up just outside 9 inches, obviously you're not going to do that, unlike the Terrorgeist Scream that has got a 10-inch range on it, which means if he sets up, he will be able to shoot them at the same time he teleports, or however he's getting that close to the enemy. Right, okay, so and then one attack, yep, whatever, one attack, but free to hit. We're going to see that there's an ability down here that makes that even better, but yeah, free to hit is good. A 2+ the wound, -3 rend, and d6 damage. So essentially what that means is if you manage to wound against the enemy, unless they've got a free up save something along those lines, it might as well just be d6 more wounds. And the funny thing is, unless they're like a Star Drake, let's say, which saves it on a bloody 6 or whatever, and it's really fucking annoying. But let's say it's it's something with what, a 4-up save, so it isn't going to get a save against -3 rend. So what that means is d6 damage. And when I said it might as well be d6 mortal wounds, d6 damage in the sense of d6 normal wounds is better than mortal wounds, because most things that have a additional save, like a Chaos Rune Shield, Nagash's armor, something like that, gives them a save against mortal wounds, but not against generic wounds unless they've got a death save or something. So that is a very nice attack for those reasons. Right, okay, then going into the melee weapons, so we've got the Gory, Talons, and Fangs. So we've got a 1-inch range, a 5 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend, and 1 damage. So of course this is the same Abhorrant Ghoul King's attack we saw for the Abhorrant Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist. Yeah, it's not bad. It's quite good at clearing hordes. Yeah, it's alright. I think we can move on now. So going on to the more exciting ones, of course. So we've got the Snap and Jaws. This has got a 3-inch range, 3 attacks, 4 to hit, 3 to wound, -2 rend, and d6 damage. Okay, so firstly, a lot of the dragon attacks. We saw this again with the Terrorgeist, but the Terrorgeist is a little bit different because it's got the more wound output, so maybe ignore that one. But we see a lot of the dragons, they've got some sort of jaw attack that does d6 damage. It can go two ways. Let's say, okay, best case scenario, you get your damage through because, -2 rend and not a bad hit into wound characteristics, so, good chance of getting your damage through. It all goes well. Right, so d6 damage. Let's say you've got 3 attacks through, d6 damage. Very rarely, I find, it either averages out, and you do something along, 11 damage or something. I find a lot of the time, it either does a lot of damage, so it does 16 damage or something like that, really, really good. Or sadly, a lot of the time it does something along the lines of 3 to 4 to 5 damage, which happens, feels like that happens more. But for me anyway, it feels like you never really get the average. That's not just saying what the stats like, that's just saying how my luck works. My luck is very particularly weird. I like to say that my luck is, well, I don't like to say it, but I feel like my luck isn't the best. However, when I do get good luck, it just comes in a massive drove and I roll 10 dice and get something like 7 6s or something. That's probably when I don't need the 6s, or that's probably when I'm doing battleshot rolls or something along those lines, but nevertheless, I get the dice then. Right, okay, so like I said, it's good. It's swingy, but it's good. It's got a good damage potential. Like I say, you can do 18 damage with this, so you're really lucky. The -2 rend is really nice, because it means if you're going up against, well, let's just say standard other flesh-eated courts, as they're so popular now. So if you chuck a -2 rend at them at a, I don't know, crit flare unit, they've only got a 5+ save, so now they're only getting their death save. They're in range of the Deathless Courtier ability. So then if they don't get that, then just d6 damage. With depending on how many attacks you've got. So yeah, that's really good. The other good thing, and this is something I talked about a lot with the Terrorgeist, so I'm not going to go in massive depths with it here, but if you want to, you can always check out that video. This is the 3-inch range. So what this means is, I summarised what I talked about with the Terrorgeist. So basically, if I take my Nagash in a game, I'll have direwolves in front of it as a bubble wrap unit, as a shield wall if you like. And what I expect the enemy to do, and funny what they do quite a bit, is they will charge into the direwolves, they will kill them, and then I go, and then I just pile in attacks and within 3 inches of that enemy unit and kill whatever kill the direwolves. However, with this guy, what he can do is charge into the direwolves, and then he can use his 3-inch range attack with a snapping jaws to lean over the direwolves and attack Nagash, and can do really, really good damage against them, especially with a -2 rend, and especially with a lot of the Flesh-Eater Court units now. I mean, like a Zombie Dragon, it has the potential to charge on turn 1. If you have the priority with your Flesh-Eater Court and going against Nagash, might not be the smartest thing to do, but you could charge Nagash turn 1 before Nagash has got his command ability up, so he's got a standard 3-up save. You're chucking -2 rend at him, so that means his save is now a 5-up. You're going to be attacking him twice if you're going to go with the, Feeding Frenzy, which you might as well if you're going to go with that. And that means that this 440 point model is now basically double its points worth in that combat phase. Now it's like 880 points. So yeah, that's you're chucking that at Nagash, and 880 points compared to an 800 point model. The points are in your favour in that way, and yeah, so you could do really, really insane damage to Nagash. Again, in this case, if Nagash, if I put skeletons in front of Nagash as the shield wall, which is what I used to do, that's only because I didn't have enough direwolves. Now I've got more direwolves, so it won't be a problem. But anyway, if you had skeletons in range, well, their bases are just under 1 inch, because they're 25mm bases. You could probably get the next attack to attack Nagash as well, which is the sword-like claws, which we'll go into in a moment. But I really just want to emphasise how good the 3-inch range and snap and jaw attack is, because if it's 3 inches, you're in combat with them. So it doesn't matter, like, if you feel like, oh, well, they're in combat with me, but they look quite far away. I don't know if it will be in. No, if they're in combat, which is the 3-inch rule, then your snapping jaws, or more even, I believe it's called, yeah, snapping more, sorry, is in range and will be able to do that really good damage to them. If you're, I say if you're lucky. I mean, a lot of the time you roll your 3 dice to hit and you roll like, what, 2 2s and like 1 4, it happens, but there are mount traits, as we know, to make you be able to re-roll that to hit, which I think is one of the best mount traits there are for either the Terrorgeist and the Zombie Dragon. Right, okay, so going on to the sword-like claws, so we've got a 2-inch range of this. It's got 7 attacks. Now, its attack characteristic though is, again, it's like one of those a dash or stars. I don't even know what symbol you call it, but you know, it's a star or whatever. So what that means is referred to the damage table again. So it starts with 7 attacks, and then the more damage it takes, it will get less and less attacks, to the point where if it's taking 13 plus wounds, it will only have 3 attacks. But anyway, like I said, it starts with 7, which is quite a lot, because it hits on a 4, it wounds on a 3, it has a -1 rend, and it has a 2 damage. So the nice thing about this, okay, so it's not as like punchy as the the missile weapon or the snapper jaw, because its rend is only -1, but it's still got rend, so that's always good. There's some dragons out there, their claw attacks, that don't have rend, which I find really, really weird. So it's good that this guy has got it, especially how he is sort of dead, so his, the claws are probably snapped a bit and stuff. But anyway, it's good that he's got it. Again, you're hitting on a 4, what isn't bad, but it feels like you always miss them a lot for some reason. It's the average, but for it feels like, what if you roll, what you got 7 attacks, haven't you? So you roll 7 dice, and it feels like you only hit on 3 of them, and the other 4 miss. Now I know that is actually the average, and that's just the wrong side of the average, but it feels like that happens more than not. But anyway, to hit on a 4 is not bad. It's the same we say for the snapping more. So anyway, hit on a 4, win on 3. -1 rend and 2 damage, so you've got great potential here to do a lot of damage, and in particular against horde units, because the horde units that maybe have, let's say, perfectly, they've got a 6-up save, right, chuck -1 rend at them, and they're not getting a save at all, and they're taking 2 damage for every one they, well, I was going to say they fail, but for every wound you get, basically, unless they got a death save. Right, okay, and then if they've got a 5+ save, let's say, now they're saving on 6s. It can make a difference, especially that -2 rend, but the 2 damage there is really, really nice. Right, okay, so that's his attacks. Big fan of his attacks. Some of them can be swingy, but not as swingy as the Terrorgeist, I find, because your claws are just good standard 2 damage with 7 attacks to start, unlike the Terrorgeist ones, which were 4 attacks, and they had the same rend, I believe, and they did D3 damage. You know, the sword-like claws are more reliable, more attacks and 2 damage. Like I said with the Terrorgeist, it is fun with the D3 damage, but you're only getting 4 attacks there. Here you're getting 7, so this one's better. Right, okay, so then we're going to go into its abilities. So the first one is Pestilence Breath. So this is referring to the missile weapon, Pestilence Breath. So it says, when you attack with this model's Pestilence Breath, roll a dice before making the hit roll for the attack. If the roll is less than equal to the number of models in the target unit, that attack scores a hit without needing to make a hit roll. Okay, so firstly, if you're going against a 1 model unit, so again, I'll use this example from Nagash, but it could be another zombie dragon, could be a star drake, could be a tree lord, could be many of those things. This ability is not going to help you out too much at all, as long as, well, if you're really good at rolling 1s and you can do it on command, absolutely do it. Roll your 1 and then you hit automatically. But what will I find will happen is I go, well, I might as well try and get this ability. So I roll and then I'll get a 4, let's say, and I go, oh, okay, well now I'm going to roll to hit. And I roll to hit and then I'll get a 1. I was like, oh, if it was the other way around, it would be amazing. On the other hand, though, use this ability against something with 6 or more models, then you don't even need to roll the dice. You do obviously roll the dice because you like to be smug in front of your opponent. But you can roll the dice, automatically get it. It's going to be the best dice roll you make all the time, unless you're playing with like Nagash and you want to do a Arcane Bolt and you're getting +3 to cast and you're rolling 2 dice. Along those lines, it's really good because you're automatically going to get it. And then that means that you only need to, as long as the Abhorrant Ghoul King on the Royal Zombie Dragon is not injured, you're only going to need to roll a 2 to wound. You roll that 2, and then let's say it's got 6 more models. Let's say it's a horde unit. Let's say it's got 30 models in it, as an example. And they've got, I don't know, it's a good horde unit. It's got a 4-up save, let's say. It's really, really stout. It's really good. However, they're not getting any pluses to their save, so they've got a standard 4-up save. Right, so you've hit them automatically. You've wounded them on a 2. You're minusing 3 rend to them, so they haven't got a save. And you're doing D6 damage. So you're basically just doing, right, here's D6 wounds, and they might go, oh, but I've actually got a mortal wound save against that. Oh, yeah, but these aren't mortal wounds, these are just wounds, so take them, bitch. And the really nice thing about this is that there's so many times where you hit automatically. It feels like, you know, like you're just shouting numbers at your opponent at that point, like you don't even roll dice. So you hit automatically, you're wounding on a 2, but a lot of the times, for some reason, you get a 1 to wound. And it's really, really annoying because it was such a good setup for you. Like, so easy, like almost cheating, that and you still manage to fail. However, one of the mount traits now is that you can reroll that 1 to wound, I believe. And by able to reroll that 1 to wound, by far, it's not the best mount trait at all. It's not the one I recommend you to take at all because there are better ones. However, I just love the fact that there is the potential to do that. And when I say it lets you reroll the 1 to wound, what I mean is it lets you reroll all failed wound rolls, which is good for when you've taken a bit of damage, to be fair, because now you need more than a 2 to get it. But yeah, I do really like that. Okay, and then on to the next ability, so Royal Blood. So in your heal phase, you can hit up to D3 wounds allocated to this model. Right, so this is the same ability we've seen for all the Abhorrant Ghoul Kings, either on foot, on Terrorgeist, or now on the Zombie Dragon. Which is good, because like I said, the enemy is going to target this guy with quite a lot of their artillery, with quite a lot of their shooting. And if they're targeting him, they're not targeting your courtiers, depending on how you run your army. If you've got a lot of, any of the Crypt Ghouls, any of the Cryptors, any of the Crypt Flares, you're running a lot of them, then your courtiers are really important to you. So the enemy is shooting this guy, not your courtiers, you're doing a good job, and the enemy is not. So, by the enemy going, right, I just need to quickly take care of that zombie dragon so it doesn't cause some problems later, if they only sort of like, well, if they hit him a lot, he can withstand it a little bit because of he's healing the D3 wounds. But if they go, right, okay, I need to take out your courtiers or that big unit of flares or horrors or ghouls you got, but I need to deal with the zombie dragon as well, so I'm going to hit it a little bit. If he only hits it a little bit, you're going to be healing that D3 wounds. And if the opponent hasn't played against one of these before, which they probably have nowadays because of how popular the Flesh-Eater Course became, but let's say they haven't, you don't need to tell them it's got the Royal Blood ability unless they ask. You can let them do a couple wounds to it, or 1 wound, instead of shooting something more important. Then when it comes to your hero phase, you go, right, Royal Blood, heal D3, and they might go, oh, I didn't realise you could heal that model. And you're like, well, you didn't ask me, so activate Smug Face. So, again, it is a nice ability. It's the same one, like I said, I reviewed for the other 2 Abhorrant Ghoul King models. Right, okay, and then going into magic, so it says, this model is a wizard. It can attempt to cast one spell in your hero phase and attempt to unbind one spell in the enemy hero phase. It knows the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Malefic Hunger spells. Right, so we know what Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield spells do, so let's go into its unique spell, so a Malefic Hunger. Now the first thing about this, I think I'm pronouncing it right, and reason why it's a little bit interesting is because it used to be called Feeding Frenzy. And of course now there is a Freshly Court ability, one of its Legion's abilities called Feeding Frenzy, which we all are aware of now because of how good it is. However, there used to be a Feeding Frenzy ability before as well in the General's Handbook. So that meant that the Freshly Courts had two separate abilities called Feeding Frenzy, which didn't come up all the time because the old Feeding Frenzy ability compared to what it is now was absolutely terrible. But I'm glad they changed the name now because of how often Feeding Frenzy is going to come up. It's good that they changed the name of the spell. Anyway, let's get into Malefic Hunger. So, it has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast until your next hero phase, you can re-roll wound rolls for attacks and made with melee weapons for friendly Flesh Eater Courts units wholly within 16 inches of the caster. Okay, so this has changed from what it was before, not just the name. Because what it used to be before is all friendly Flesh Eater Courts models that were... It was either within 8 inches or 10 inches of it. I think it was 10 inches. And it was either wholly within 10 inches or within 10 inches. And I think it was just within. So, for any Flesh Eater Court models that were within 10 inches of this model can re-roll their wound rolls. And now it's within 16 inches of it. And now it's wholly within. And it's got to be units, not models. So I think it did used to be better. And it was easier to, clip more models that way, for you to make the most of this ability. However, it's still not bad, and you can still really use this to target one unit of your choice to get those rerolls and wound rolls. Of course, it will affect the other units, including the Abhorrant Ghoul King on the Raw Zombie Dragon, so he'll always be in range of himself. But what's important for me when I use this is, like I say, you can only sort of fit around one, but that's fine because I only really targeted one unit with this ability, and that was a Cryptora unit. So the plan how I used to do it with the Cryptoras, and when I say I used to do it, I mean I still do it now, is I'd have a big unit of Cryptoras, so either 12 or 9, ideally 12, and I would have them re-roll on all the failed hit rolls because they'll be within range of this guy, and they will also be, well, not all of them, but the majority of them through the Malefic Hunger spell would be able to re-roll their wound rolls as well. And you will still be able to do it with this. To be honest, it'll probably be easier for me to do it with this now. With the way I run it with the Cryptoras, with just one unit. And you probably have to make it a unit of 9 rather than a unit of 12. But anyway, so let's say you've got a unit of 9. They re-roll on all failed hit rolls. So these are 3 attacks. Let's just say standard. 3 attacks. Re-roll on failed hit rolls. Re-roll on failed wound rolls. And if you wound on a 6, it's +1 to your damage essentially. No rend. And 2 damage. So you've got basically re-roll on fucking everything. You're doing 2 damage, 3 potentially. It's really, really, really good, especially how many times the enemy can make you minuses to hit. It just gets your reliability up there and just makes your playing with Cryptoras an absolute blast, because what it means is that there's a lot of times, if even let's just say you're hitting on a 4, you roll on a bucket load of dice, or not even bucket, just say you roll 10 dice or something. You roll those dice, and the amount of ones that you get unlucky with, you just get below the average. It's really, really disheartening, especially if you really, really needed them to do well. But with the Cryptor, it's just like, oh, I don't like that result, I'm going to re-roll only the failed ones. And then you can do to wound and you go, oh, I don't like that result, I'm going to re-roll only the failed ones. And you're wounding on a 3 with these guys, so you'll be rolling those 2s and 1s, which just means that most of your attacks go through. And especially if the enemy has not got a good save against Cryptos, that's nasty. Of course, this is going to be good against, well, I say against, I mean it's going to help out your crit flares. It's going to help your crit ghouls as well, as they get, reroll hit rolls on 1 with their, Abhorrant Ghoul King ability, basically. When I say Abhorrant Ghoul King, it's just Abhorrence now. So that's also something important to note. And then the last thing you just want to say about it is, if you read through it and it says, oh, it doesn't mention the combat phase, so it's going to work for my shooting attacks, my Pestilence Breath, that sort of thing. It says for melee weapons, so just remember it's not going to help out your shooting attack with the Zombie Dragon. Okay, and then we're going to go into its last ability, which is a command ability, and this is Summon Courtiers. So you can use this command ability at the end of your movement phase. If you do so, pick one friendly model that has this command ability and has not used it before in the battle. That model can summon a 1 courtier unit to the battlefield. The summon unit is added to your army and must be set up wholly within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield and more than 9 inches away from any enemy models. Okay, so this ability is essentially what we've seen all the time from before from all the other Abhorrent Ghoul Kings. It's the same one, but instead of setting up 10 serves or 10 crypt ghouls essentially, or 3 knights, or basically what 3 crypt flares or 3 crypt horrors are, you can set up 1 courtier. So this can be anything from as low from the little ghoul courtier, or it could be the Varghulf courtier, which is really good because it's like bring this guy along and you get a free Varghulf, which the enemy can't unbind, anything like that. You just get a free Varghulf. So I guess the point was like, do I put a Varghulf on my list or do I just let this guy summon it? Just let him summon it. That's what I've been doing. Of course, the Abhorrent Archregent is less than like half the points of this guy, and I haven't reviewed him yet, but it's less than half the points of this guy. He can summon a Varghulf as well. But you know, he didn't used to always be around. It used to just be this guy who could summon the Varghulf for free. So good on him. You know, the Abhorrent Archregent, yeah, whatever, he's cool. But the zombie dragon with the Abhorrent Ghoul King on top was more reliable in the past, so that's why I respect him for that. But of course, as soon as I build an Abhorrent Archregent, I'll just be sort of maybe pushing the zombie dragon to the side and going, well, this guy is going to be a lot better for me. Right, okay, so and then we're going to go into the keywords. So we've got a death, a vampire, flesh eater courts, abhorrent, monster, hero, wizard, Abhorrent Ghoul King. Okay, so similar to what I said about the Abhorrent Ghoul King on the Terrorgeist, the few ones that are going to be popular here. So flesh eater courts for, you know, your death courtier ability, and that also comes in with the hero part. Abhorrent for letting your crypt horrors and your crypt ghouls be able to reroll hits. And monster is also going to be important for you know, things like if you cross Sylvaneth, Wildwoods and all those sorts of things, make sure you don't die. There's some abilities that don't affect monsters, and things like Lookout Sir is not going to help this guy. And then you've got a wizard. Now, why this is quite important is obviously wizard means you can unbind spells, you can cast spells, all those sorts of things, but also if you play a, you know, on the battle plan stuff, I believe there's a battle plan called Places of Arcane Power, which you have 3 objectives across the board, and you can only capture it with a wizard or a hero with an artifact of power. So, depending on how you're running your Flesh Eater Courts, if you're not taking Battalion, you've got not really many artifacts in your army, have you? Now, you've got lots of wizards, including this guy, so this guy can catch that objective. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because the other day I did actually play that, and I thought I wouldn't take a Battalion, because I was like, I'm going to see what they can do without the Battalions. So, high drops, but let's see what we can do. And then that battle plan was rolled, and then I was like, suddenly I was like, crap, I don't really have many artifacts. However, it was a wizard, so it cured the problem. But if you've got an army doesn't really have any wizards and doesn't really have any battalions, you know, dispossessed, you play against that battle plan, and you probably, if you've got those armies, you probably already had played that battle plan, and it mustn't be very nice. So just bear in mind, wizards now have another function for, you know, objective capturing. Right, okay, so that is the review for the Abhorrent Ghoul King on the Royal Zombie Dragon. So overall, a good, strong monster. Is it that much better than the Terrorgeist? Now, I would say combat output, on average, it is better than Terrorgeist. However, it's just hard to measure the Terrorgeist's really good 6 mortal wounds on the 6s to hit, which is unmodified. It's generally really quite hard to try and scale how good this is in comparison to it, but you know, its claws are better, its shooting attack, it's not mortal wounding, and it's got a shorter range, but I'd say on average it's better, especially when it's on full health, just because of if you're playing against an enemy with bravery 10, it's a little bit shite, isn't it, for the Terrorgeist Screaming attack. So with this, it's going to be more reliable. His command ability is better. And then looking at the other difference with the spell. So, if you're running a lot of Cryptors in your army, for me anyway, I'd say that spell he's got, the Malefic Hunger, is better. If you're not running a lot of Cryptors, that's not really how you're playing it. I would prefer the spell from the one on the Terrorgeist, because that 5-up death save, essentially what it gives you, on top of your other death save, so you've got a 5-up and then a 6-up, is really, really good and just makes like a unit of 12 flares even more durable. And that is the other thing. If you're taking a flare strong army, yes, you can take the blister skin, but if you want to try out not taking the Grand Court, so you can take Feast Day, So you basically make Feeding Frenzy go off really easily and not crushing your command points. You know, like the first time you do it, you know, basically, okay, the Feeding Frenzy, I think it's called Feast Day. It lets you do Feeding Frenzy once in the combat phase for free without costing command points. You know, like once per turn or battle round. So anyway, that is good. Now, going back to what I'm saying, if you're taking a lot of flares in your army, then you sort of lean towards the Terrorgeist, because if you're not taking them in the Grand Courts, then you can take the artifacts that nerf the enemy's bravery, which pairs them really nice with the Terrorgeist as well. So it depends how you build your list. And also, this guy is 40 points more. So it's a little bit, I'd say, on paper, the Abhorrant Ghoul King on Royal Zombie Dragon is more reliable. But the Terrorgeist one is, I'd say, firstly more exciting because of the mortal wounding output. It's good how I run my army anyway. So personally for me it's better because I run a lot of flares the majority of the time. So for me anyway, I go for the Terrorgeist with the Ghoul King on top. Right, so that is going to be the end for the Abhorrant Ghoul King on the Royal Zombie Dragon. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like, subscribe and comment down below, as that does massively help me. It's absolutely free for you guys to do so. If you do enjoy the content, I please suggest for you guys to give it a subscribe, because like I say, that's free and it's really does help out the channel, helps it to grow. And if you would like to support the channel a step further, I have now started a Patreon account, which is a way for me to be able to have some funding towards the channel, as I don't get paid by YouTube at all. Because at the moment I refuse to have adverts on my videos, because I've said this many times before, but no one likes watching a YouTube video and then an advert pops up. It really just puts you off really. So I want to prevent doing any of that. So the other alternative is to have a Patreon, which is a really good way for people who want to support the channel. Can do it. Anything helps. Anything like $1 really helps. And all this really adds to is for me to be able to buy things like battle tomes for the channel. And the battle tomes, I don't have a problem buying the battle tomes if it's for an army I already do, because, you know, I'm going to buy it anyway. But for when it's armies I don't play, it's, you know, in the UK anyway, you know, it's standard like £25 for the battle tome. And if I don't play the armies, it's quite a lot of money, especially how quickly the battle tomes are coming out these days. So really helps towards that. I can put the money towards a better microphone for the channel, because, you know, audio is really important on YouTube. I was looking to try and get some cameras, or just a camera, so I can do things like unboxings or hobbying chats, and also try and get back into the battle reports. I did like a couple to test it out, but it'd be something I really would like to push onwards. And yeah, and also it just really helps motivate me to be able to justify spending the time on the channel. If I know that some people are supporting it as well, it's really good. So like I say, guys, I'm going to leave a link for that towards the top of the description down below. If you could check it out, that'd be great. If you can't support the channel via that way, that's absolutely fine. I'm just really glad that you came and watched this video today. And on that note, I'd like to thank the 3 patron I've got, who are the Vampire Carries. So that's like tier 2 on the Patreon accounts. They basically give $5 a month, and it really helps towards the channel, like for all the reasons I already stated. So that is Max, Simon and Carl. Again, guys, thank you very much. As like I've basically just said for the last few minutes, just how much that really helps. It means that money that's saved up is going to really help towards, like I say, like a microphone is probably the next thing I'm going to get. Or, you know, even just the battle tome stuff is really great. So thank you for your continued support, and because you guys, it really helps be able to put up the content. So like I say, thank you again. Right, guys, so I'm going to leave the video here. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you'd like to ask me any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll be very happy to answer them. And if you'd like to tell me about your experience of the Abhorrant Ghoul King on the Royal Zombie Dragon, please let me know as well. Okay, so guys, I'm going to thank you very much for watching this. And remember, until next time, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.